MS Cricket at you recently.
Yeah.
Oh, didn't notice you there. Welcome back to the MS Cricket Podcast, the Overcast Podcast. We're back after a long time, and it's getting cold here in Vancouver. You know, people are coughing, people are choking, which reminds me. Oh! Chokers again. Eshaan, yet another ICC loss. This time it really hurts. What are your thoughts?
It does hurt a bit. I mean, it hurts a lot. I thought the wait was finally over after 2013. This was our year to get our ICC trophy, but it wasn't to be. I think we had a wonderful campaign, but I think India would be very disappointed, and you could see it in the faces after the game. You know, Rohit looked distraught. Kohli looked distraught, but I mean, he's used to it in red and black, but he still looked distraught. But yeah, I mean, it was a campaign to remember, but we don't have anything to show for it. But what do you think were the highlights throughout the campaign? I think India dominated this World Cup like no other team has before. So what do you think about India's campaign?
Without a doubt, I think this campaign, India showed all the promise they've been building, especially from 2018, 2016. This World Cup was meant to be India's. Rohit Sharma with his row ball approach, attacking from the front, taking on any sort of opposition. It was amazing. And of course, Virat Kohli in sublime form. Bumrah, of course, in this picture. I mean, he's fantastic. And then we'll talk about Mohammad Shami as well later on. They've been really good. But talking about Virat Kohli, what are your thoughts this World Cup? What has he accomplished?
Yeah, I mean, it hurts more because we saw Virat Kohli and what he did and how much effort he put into this World Cup. I think he was one of the standout performers for India. I think a lot of them did stand up at multiple stages of the tournament, but Virat Kohli, scoring the number of centuries he did and going past Sachin's record, I think that in itself was a huge accomplishment, a huge achievement for him personally and for the team as well. And to have Sachin in the stands watching him, and that just moment, that beautiful moment with Anushka watching him, clapping for him. We had a screening where 500 of us was watching it together.
Yeah.
So it was just an amazing moment. I think for me it was one of the best moments of the World Cup. Kohli scoring that in a very very big game, very difficult game. So it's just amazing to watch him. But yeah, what do you think Kohli did well in that match and his sort of form in this World Cup? And do you feel like it hurts more because of how he did?
Oh, definitely. I think just like the IPL, I think the RCB fans, of course, they saw Kohli's back-to-back hundreds. In this World Cup, I don't know what Kohli had in him, but it almost seemed like it was his World Cup. He owned it. And from the get-go, he had this drive to make sure India gets over the line. You saw the group stage match against New Zealand. That was something. You saw the semi-final match again against New Zealand. That was again something. So Kohli has done this. And even against teams like Sri Lanka and like South Africa, England, not in England's case, of course, there's a mixed bag of performances. But talking about those teams as well, India's bowling has been nothing short of brilliant. Bumrah, Shami, Siraj. I mean, I'll get you started with Mo Siraj,
of course,
but
the legend.
What are your thoughts?
I think one of the biggest strengths for India in this World Cup was the pace attack. We expected the spin department to sort of dominate with Kuldeep, with Jadeja. Ash didn't really play a big role, but still we kind of expected. We talked about the spin department in our previous episode as well, but we really didn't expect. I mean, I personally didn't expect someone like a Shami, who was rested in the first game for some reason, and Shardul was played, but I did not expect these three to perform the way they did. And you mentioned that the three games, including England and South Africa, I think we just dominated them with the ball, and it's so rare to see that in India, on Indian pitches, the pace sort of trio dominating such beautiful, such classy batsmen. So it was just amazing to watch. Our pace attack leading from the front and almost destroying their batting lineups. So it was good to see from an Indian perspective, but sort of made me question the quality of cricket we were playing, and it felt so easy at that point. I was like, this World Cup is surely ours.
I genuinely think the catching competition the Indian team had more competition in the group stages.
The fielding medals,
because especially Sri Lanka, like, don't call it one day, call it half day matches, because they'll get bored out within the first 10 overs. I mean, it's been amazing to see India do well, But another real highlight of this World Cup have been the smaller teams,
Yeah.
the more like underrated teams, the underdogs in these competitions doing well. So you of course saw, let's talk about Afghanistan first. Afghanistan beating England, of course, and then they went on to beat Pakistan also. What are your thoughts on their rise? How have they done this in such a short period of time?
Yeah, I mean, makes me question whether we should be calling them underdogs anymore. And I mean, they were certainly underdogs coming into the tournament, and people did sort of expect them to upset bigger nations, but I did not expect them to upset England. And we'll talk about England's campaign, but Afghanistan really surprised me, especially the batting, because we kind of talk about the bowling lineup whenever Afghanistan comes up. We say, okay, Rashid's going to dominate, Mujib's is good, their pace attack is decent with their dead bowlers in that Naveen ul Haq as well. But the batting really stood up for me. I think the two openers, and even I think what's his name, the Gurbaz, Ramanullah Gurbaz, he set up almost every innings. He set it up beautifully.
Absolutely.
And Afghanistan's batting, scoring 250, 300 with ease almost every single game, really surprised me. So that was a huge positive, for the nation with what they're going through, and I think it's amazing for world cricket at large.
I think Afghanistan, like they've always showed promise.
Yeah.
They've often come close to upsetting big teams, and I think this was their World Cup.
Yeah.
At one point in time, people were saying they might even get into the semis.
Exactly.
So that's just amazing, and we feel good for the man on the screen, Rashid Khan. He's really carried his team. Another big team that has come up is Netherlands, and I call them the big team because they've made the biggest journey into this World Cup.
Exactly.
So firstly, a few podcasts ago we said they beat the West Indies and they're into the World Cup. We thought, we didn't give them much of a chance in this World Cup. We thought 9-9, but what we saw was just a relentless team filled with stars from South Africa. A relentless team that was just at it. They constantly were very consistent in their approach. Like, what are your thoughts on that, especially the South Africa victory? What are your thoughts on that?
Again, very surprising. Beating a team like South Africa, and that was during the successful run South Africa was having. They were on a roll. There was no team that could beat them, and then these guys come in and say, "I'm the Basta leader," comes in and say, "I'm gonna upset you," and they did. I think Netherlands were amazing, especially this game against the South Africans. And we'll talk about South Africa as well and the kind of campaign they've had, but. Netherlands really did surprise me, and it's amazing for world cricket as a whole. I think Afghanistan, Netherlands, and recently we got to know that Uganda got qualified and for the T20 World Cup next year. So it's amazing to watch younger teams coming up, and this is what really makes a World Cup a World Cup. We normally just look at 8 to 10 countries and say, okay, this is a World Cup, but these countries show that the world can play cricket and the world knows how to play cricket, and it's just amazing to watch.
Yeah, and they've come to play, they've shown their talent, they're getting an IPL contract, they're making money.
Exactly.
Good for them.
Exactly. And I expect Barcelona and maybe Van der Merwe maybe to make some money at the auction this year.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
I think Aryan that to RCB personally.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
But talking about upsets, let's talk about the team that chokes. Because
not RCB.
Not RCB, we fooled you there. But here's poor Temba.
I feel bad for him. I feel so bad for him. There was a lot of promise for South Africa. I mean, you went into the World Cup supporting South Africa almost. But yeah.
Yeah, I think South Africa, like apart from the Netherlands game, they didn't really do much wrong.
No.
Like I think their players were on fire. The bowling attack, Gerald Coetzee, a big name. He's going to go for big money.
Lot of money.
And a very good bowling lineup, despite Andrik Nokia, of course, not being part of this World Cup. Major miss. They had the close game against Pakistan.
That's right.
Keshav Maharaj showed his kingness per se. But what do you think went wrong with them?
I'm not sure, because you talked about the players that did stand up for them. You talked about Klaassen. You say, Maiden Markram, I think scored a century of 49 balls before Maxwell broke his record.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these players did stand up for them. Bavuma was someone who maybe was a bit upset about his own form. And he couldn't really show, lead from the front as a captain. But de Kock as well, the kind of runs he made, I think South Africa would be disappointed that they didn't make it all the way.
Yeah.
And I was kind of expecting them to at least make the final, beat Australia in the semi-final. But again, we talk about Australia in a second there. But very disappointed from a South African point of view. I thought that this was their year. If not India, I would have not minded South Africa winning it, to be very honest. But yeah, I mean, South Africa doing what South Africa does, Timber Bavuma, very, very disappointed, as you can see.
Well, he's a champ. And talk about champions.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the former champions. Look at that, Josh Butler. I mean, from the get-go, we were like, at the start of the tournament, everybody thought England has a very fiery batting lineup.
Yeah.
Then Stokes, of course, pulling a Shai the freebie.
Pulling a Moye Ali.
Coming back into the ODI setup and not bowling for some reason. But anyway, we thought they would do better. And I think from the first game onwards, they were just a team that couldn't come back. Rachin Ravindra, we'll talk about him, but they took their fire away from him. What do you think about England, how they went about this World Cup? What changes would you see?
It was shocking. After the first 2-3 games, I was like, okay, maybe now England comes back. But game after game, they kept losing every single game.
RCB.
Okay. In 2019 maybe. No, but I think England really was promising. I think both of us expected them to finish in the top 4 from what I remember.
Yeah.
So it was shocking to see them at number 10 for almost half the tournament. I think they would be too. I saw a lot of Sky News videos, Nasir Hussain and Atherton sort of analysing what's going wrong. But just very shocking to see the defending champions being beat so easily. I personally felt bad for Butler. I think he couldn't really find his form and sort of blamed it on himself. I don't think it's just one person's fault there. I think generally the batting order sort of didn't really gel together. They weren't able to find partnerships very consistently. And they weren't able to have a standard performance throughout the season. Even with the ball, they were decent at best. David Willey did make an impact. Before he was left, he was a legend before he was left by RCB. But I know he did have an impact. But again, nothing too exceptional from England, which was surprising. Just very surprising from England's point of view. But talking about another team that we did expect to qualify, I think both of us really expected Pakistan to make it into the top 4. But again, really disappointing from them. What do you think went wrong with Pakistan, and were there certain situational factors that played a role?
I think so. So people don't know this, but they didn't play Dil-Dil Pakistan.
Oh no.
And that's why they are not champions.
Because of a song. Maybe. That makes so much sense.
And Jai Shah, I will never forgive you for this. Jai Shah, are you watching? No, but...
look at Babar, man. Poor Babar. Like King Babar in their eyes.
Boxy,
but yeah.
No, but with Pakistan, it was an interesting campaign, I would say. I think they showed promise. In every single game, they showed some sort of promise. But their bowling was just not there. I think one man they missed. And I can't believe just because of one man that made so much of an impact, it's Nazeem Shah. Because Nazeem Shah wasn't a wicket taker, but he was a pressure creator.
Exactly.
They had Haris Rauf getting the runs for them. Oh, sorry, with the ball. He got absolutely hammered. I almost forgot this is the same Haris Rauf he used to fear in the World T20.
Exactly.
And Babar again, not the Babar-esque form we expected him. Number 1 batsman before the ODI World Cup, and now sacked as captain, which is just again a very King Kohli BCCI kind of move, but. It's just been a very weird kind of World Cup for them. They were sort of in it, but sort of not. Fielding also didn't help. I remember that Warner drop that in Bangalore that cost
South
them
Shakils,
So it's been a very weird World Cup for them. But talking about these upsets, this batting, let's talk about the good stuff.
There was a lot of good.
And starting with this man,
the Bangalore boy,
the Rahul plus Sachin plus everybody.
But
he's he's just a gem. Like this batting sensation. My first impression of him was just Indian Daniel Vittori.
Okay.
You know.
That's very interesting.
But
please elaborate.
Because his left arm spinner can bat a bit.
Fair enough.
You know? And I didn't see much promise in the Test series he played. So I was like, okay, you know. And New Zealand slot him at number 3. I'm like, there's some Irfan Pathan politics from 2004. But no, he's been fantastic. And he plays these extravagant shots. Yuvraj Singh, yes.
Exactly.
What are your thoughts? What's his future like?
I mean, future might be in RCB. Future might be him wearing red and black. No, but I think he's a very classy player. And especially with the sort of spin, also talent that he brings in, he's an asset to have for any team. And he showed that he has a lot of potential. I think he's very, very young, and at that age, performing that way in a World Cup, I think it's very promising for New Zealand going forward. I think they found a very solid opening on number 3, or I think he can bat anywhere, honestly. But it'd be interesting to see him adapt his game to a T20 format or a Test format and improving his form there. But I think he's an exceptional player. I think he was scoring hundreds with ease. And just timing the ball so beautifully. You talk about Yuvraj Singh. It reminded me so much of Yuvraj and the way he used to bat. Just like elegant cover drives and smashing them. So just an amazing prospect for New Zealand. And with his youngness, we can talk about someone's oldness. Someone who retired from ODI cricket. I think it's a huge loss for South Africa. But the way he sort of said goodbye to the team with his performance in this World Cup, I think. Amazing to watch his hundreds and his dominance with the bat, and another reason why South Africa, I think, deserved to win this title. But what do you think about his form and the way he went about his things?
After Kohli, if someone has carried his team, it's been Quinton de Kock. I think he's done really well this World Cup. He gave that start to, and he's just such a elegant batter. He's not your Chris Gayle type who just batted the ball. He has that ability, but he likes to, make his innings, make it big as well. So, and I think what helped was him doing well in Indian conditions in the past with LSG, of course. So I think he's been absolutely amazing. And you talked about 2 left-handers. Now let's talk about someone who destroys them.
Exactly. Look at
Mr. Shami.
Look at him. Why did they rest him in the first game? I don't understand. Like, what was the thinking there? Playing Shardul, looking for an extra batting.
As wise Mr. Nags once said, inflate, deflate.
That's a very good point.
And but it begs the question. Like, he ended up with the highest wicket taker.
I think so.
And if he just played the first few games, it's not even the first game. First few games, if he played. I wonder how many more wickets he would have gotten. He averaged, I think, 9 point something. Highest Ross economy almost.
Okay. That's incredible. Just
what are your thoughts?
Amazing talent. I mean, just his seam position and just amazing to watch. And he dominates left-handers, like you said. He dominates right-handers, and Shami, this tournament looked like he was just unplayable. I mean, there were batsmen who just couldn't face him. We saw in the Sri Lanka game, like, just squaring people up with ease. And I think the strength with this Indian bowling attack is that they bowl in tandem, like they bowl in partnerships. Shami, Siraj, Bumrah, they kind of bowl in different ways. Especially Bumrah, who just either bangs it in or bangs it like right under the nose. And so I think the partnership and the sort of the way they bowl together, I feel, adds to the strength of the Indian bowling lineup. But I think Shami just showed why he should be selected in every single Indian team going forward. Just amazing talent and amazing bowler to have in the team, I feel.
And along with Shami, again, we can't talk enough about this man, King Kohli himself. I think he's been another standout performance, highest run scorer, of course, in this tournament. And it was kind of like a 2003 World Cup repeat. Sachin also won it back then.
Correct.
And he broke Sachin's not 1 but 2 records as well. So I mean, he's taken a temporary break from the white ball game, and it would be a huge loss, of course, if he decides to make that permanent. But what do you think helped this World Cup for him?
I think the kind of mindset that Kohli came in with, I think it was pretty clear that he came into this tournament looking to attack, looking to dominate, and he just played positively. It looked like he was enjoying his game. Even in the clips that we saw from the, I think, Indian cricket team posting them online with the fielding sort of awards and everything, it looked like the team was, in a sense, gelling well together. They had an amazing chemistry off the field as well. And I think Kohli sort of benefited from that as well. The environment looked really positive. I think that has helped him after his sort of comeback, as people say. But yeah, I think it's just the framework and the frame of mind that he's in that has helped him. I think technically he's been the same since 10 years, 15 years. But I think just Kohli's mastery, we got to see it yet again. And I hope that we get to see it in 2027 and beyond. But I really hope this isn't his last World Cup. That's my only hope.
Sometimes I feel it's the RCB podcast, not the Overcast podcast. Because we're talking about one RCB in here, and here look at another RCB.
That tells you something about RCB as a team, right?
Oh, for sure, man. I mean, the Big Show himself came to the World Cup on one leg, 91 for 7 on that Mumbai track against the Afghani spinners. Like, just impossible stuff. Greatest ODI knock in my opinion.
100%, yeah.
What do you think? Like, of course, there's a lot of history attached to this with his mental health and all that.
Right.
So what do you think has changed, and like what has he added to his game to make this happen?
Yeah, I think like you said, he's worked on his mental health. He took a break, I think a long time back as well. He's married now, has a kid. So all these things sort of off the pitch has definitely helped him, find his game on the pitch and, really become what he is right now. I think all these factors outside the game really have an impact when you're on the field, when you're in the right, space of mind. So you can definitely see that in his game. He's batting freely. He's enjoying his game. And that game in particular, I mean, they didn't deserve to win from where they were.
Definitely.
91 for 7 against Afghanistan is kind of, embarrassing. But the way Cummins batted showed grit in that innings. Had a leechy sort of an innings there.
That was the knock of the century.
I agree. I agree. Yeah.
12 of 68. That's some clutch stuff. No, I definitely think Australia, they have this attitude of I'm not going to die without giving a fight, and that really showed in that game. But talking about these amazing feats, let's talk about some ugliness in this tournament. Let's talk about the sweetest moment of sportsmanship. Time is a concept, not for Shakib.
Oh my god. What was that? I think that was the first time in international cricket someone has been timed out, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
That was a bizarre incident. Like, what did you think about this incident, and who was right, who was wrong? Is it okay to analyze this in hindsight? Like, what was that whole thing?
I think this is the perfect scenario.
Yeah.
We won't have a bias towards it.
Exactly. True. That's true.
So I personally think for Angelo Mathews, he's facing a spinner, and now you can wear a cap to a spinner. So you could have just played that ball without a helmet.
True.
You didn't have to go off and whatnot. And regarding Shakib, come on, man. Like, that's a bit too much.
It's a bit too much.
Like, I know there's something about winning. It's an important World Cup, but you weren't doing any good in the World Cup anyway. You lost to Netherlands. So
True.
Yeah. Like, what's your take on it?
I think the umpires are to be looked at closely here, and I think Marai Erasmus was one of them, and he's a very good umpire from what we've seen so far. But in that game, I think they should have seen that Mathews did come to the crease before his 2 minutes mark ended. And then that was after the 2 minutes mark ended, and he was at the crease is when the helmet issue happened. He saw the helmet strap was broken, and then maybe the umpires themselves could have said, okay, it's a spinner, you can just wear a cap or play without the helmet. But in that moment, Shakib appealed. He's within his rights to appeal, so you can't really put the entire blame on Shakib. But I think it's the umpires who are here, the third umpire sitting upstairs looking at the time, who really need to look at the rule and say, okay, Mathews was within his time, so it was slightly unfair for Shakib, or if he wasn't eligible to appeal. So that was the sort of umpiring sort of mishap that resulted in Mathews getting out. But it was a bizarre event. I really hope we don't get to see this again.
And I think what's funny to me is that ICC and MCC laws put so much emphasis on helmets, especially since Phil Hughes incident.
Exactly.
And so such a safety concern should have taken, they should have taken it to mind. And what are they saving time for exactly? I don't get it. It's an 8-hour game. Whoever wants to watch will be there, as we saw in our screenings.
Exactly.
But anyway, let's move on from this ugly incident to more uglier incidents. Let's look at why Australia won this World Cup.
And I think one of the biggest reasons is on the screen right now. I think Australia went into the World Cup relying on just one spinner.
Yeah.
If you look at the squad, Zampa was the only frontline spinner, and they were relying on Maxi as a part-time option. But I think this guy really stood tall for them. The way he bowled, I think he was leading wicket taker for a long time in the World Cup.
Yeah.
So a huge part of the credit really goes to this guy. In my personal opinion, because spin had to play a big role in India,
For sure.
and for someone like him to step up and say, I'm going to do the big job here, considering I'm the only one, so they're relying on me. Credit goes to Zampa, the way he bowled, and Australia's pretty lucky with him, because if he didn't go well for them, I don't think they would ever panic. I think they would have genuinely panicked. Then Maxwell would have been the only frontline option.
And before the World Cup, there's a lot of talk about Ashton Agar's injury, of course, and like how big of a blow that would have been. And they got Manan instead, and like will he bowl his leggies? So and it's amazing that he stepped up. And you're right that he's a big reason Australia got that far, especially after the first two losses.
Exactly.
But another big reason is, of course, the man who's on the coin, who's everywhere, Travis Head himself. Look at that. Just look at that moustache. It screams 90s fast bowler. But what he does abolishes them. I mean, carefree cricket. It reminds me a bit of Rishabh Pant in him. But like, what has changed? Like in 2018, I remember him nicking off to Shami, getting bowled. What has changed? What has this man done?
One of his hands was broken before the World Cup, so he came in late. I think he was added to the squad pretty late. And he just made impact straight away. Even in the semi-final, I think he got man of the match as well. So what an amazing World Cup for Travis Head. About the change, again, I don't think it's anything technical. It's all in the mind for me. I think it's all in the mind. The kind of confidence you go into the World Cup with, and for someone who was struggling with injury for a long time and was a pretty soft sort of injury as well, I think that would have really hurt him mentally. I think maybe that fueled him, for the World Cup, and he wanted to perform because of this sort of hunger to perform for Australia. And I think he's a big match player, and he showed us what he's capable of. I think we've talked about Travis Head in some of our previous episodes as well, when we talk about the WTC and the kind of impact he makes. He showed that he's an all-format player, and I think he's a very good asset for Australia in the years to come as well.
Big bucks in the IPL.
I think he's possibly going to earn I think one of the highest, like top 3 at least, because of the impact player rule. People are going to go for these specialist kind of players. So I think a lot of money coming in for Travis Head.
Apart from money, let's look at a bit of Moye.
Oh my god.
Which was the India-Australia final.
This game.
You can see the desperation in Rohit's face. I mean, so apart from like the obvious that Australia won the World Cup, let's look at what went wrong for India. Because of course Australia did outplay India on the day, but like, what do you think was the turning point in the match? Was it the turning pitch? But
maybe I don't know why they didn't go ahead with a flat pitch again. They played on a flat pitch for all 10 games and then suddenly chose to play on a turning track for the last game. Maybe they didn't have enough confidence in their own batsmen. Maybe they were scared of Aussie batsmen. I'm not sure what was thinking there.
It's a shocker. Personally speaking, it's a shocker.
It really is. I think that sort of changed the entire dynamic. Even though we shouldn't sit here and blame the pitch itself, it did play a huge part in the game. It turned the 350 sort of game to a 250, 270 sort of game. And even then, I think we could have done a better job with the bat. Some of our shot selections were questionable. And I think there was a stat that between 11 and 40, we only scored 4 boundaries. And that's shocking. And I can understand that, wickets are falling and Surya was the only batsman left after Kohli and Rahul. They had to anchor, they had to bat deep. But 4 boundaries in those many overs is pretty shocking. I think maybe they could have accelerated a bit quicker, a bit earlier. So do you think that there was a mishap in that, or miscalculation in the batting innings, or were they poor with the ball? What do you think went wrong in that final?
I think Australia were firstly relentless.
100%.
Their fielding, like, they were everywhere. It's like they had like 22 people on the field, and not to mention just the crowd factor as well. Like, the Australians weren't influenced by that. They were very determined. Pat Cummins had a plan. He was very good with the short ball tactic, and that's what got Kohli out. Like one that kept slow. And Surya normally, I mean, we saw in the T20 series, all of a sudden he's back to form because he wasn't getting pace on the ball on those pitches. So I think the batting, of course, And this was a replica of the game of India-Pakistan in Ahmedabad.
Right.
Where Pakistan were again at a good position, and then the wicket slowed up, and all of a sudden a collapse.
Yeah.
And then we chased it down easily, and that's exactly what happened with Australia's innings. They're like 47 for 3. We thought we have like something in there. I think another error in our bowling was we kept giving Marnus the singles, I think, especially early on, and I think that helped relieve the pressure. But I mean, what can we say? It's over now, and I feel bad for this man and Virat.
Yeah.
Do you think last dance in New York or 2027?
I really hope they play 2027 because I don't know. I really want to see them lift the ODI World Cup, because we all know T20 World Cup is just there for the sake of it.
It's a formality.
It's a formality. The real World Cup is the ODI World Cup.
Definitely.
And I want to see Kohli lifting that or Rohit lifting that. Doesn't really matter. But yeah, I mean, that's what really hurts more, is that this could be potentially the last World Cup, and it depends on the fitness, and I think they will be hungry to play at least one more, and I think they can push themselves to play. I think both are batsmen. If they were bowlers, there would have been a different story, but
I mean, Kohli does
it's a swinging menace. That is true. So if he keeps his bowling away, I think he has a chance to play the 2027
for India as well.
But the World Cup is coming to New York next year, so we could have a cricket club field trip to New York.
ICC, can you fund us?
Maybe we need some sponsorships from ICC and BCCI. We're not an Indian club though, but we that might happen. Who knows?
Yeah. For the very first time in the Overcast podcast, we have a guest, the loner Aussie fan at UBC, Mr. Aryan Sharma himself. How do you feel being part of this podcast, Aryan?
Amazing. Brilliant. I do want to thank you, Akshat and Eshaan, for having me on the podcast. I've been following it for a while, and I do appreciate you guys, taking out the time to do this segment with me. And being the loner Aussie fan, it's happy and sad at the same time. Happy we won the World Cup, but being the only Aussie fan here, but it's been going good.
And it was a fantastic World Cup for you guys. What are your key moments from the Aussies this World Cup?
Honestly, I feel like, after the first 2 matches, there were a lot of doubts around the camp. People were questioning Pat Cummins' captaincy. And, when I come to key moments, I think it's just the switch in attitude. Going into the third game, and then every game I was worried, okay, we might lose this one, but we just didn't lose after the first 2 matches. And maybe Travis Head coming in, really setting up that top order. The fielding became much better. Adam Zampa, leading wicket taker for a long while in the tournament. He did really well as well. So I feel like it was just key players that really stood up on the correct occasion, and that won us the cup. So
And one final question from my side. I think you've been supporting Australia since a long time.
Yeah.
What about them, makes you feel like, okay, I'm an Aussie fan now, because you're an Indian, obviously, right? From Delhi. So what about the Australian team, makes you feel that way?
So, I have been supporting Australia for a long time, like you said, and I think it's just that their fire and their attitude in which they turn up on the big occasions that kind of really draws me towards the Australian side. I do want to mention that my favorite player is Steven Smith, so I think that plays a very big factor, and I love watching him play, the way he plays his test matches. And
he got out for single digit
2019, the Ashes setback, the comeback is greater than the setback. That's what I always say. So
line in the test season 3.
I hope so. I hope they're filming.
Put it in Prime Video. Put it in. I want it. But I feel like just their fire. They faced a lot of controversy in what happened in Cape Town in 2018 with the sandpaper scandal. But then the way Steve Smith, the way David Warner came back, I was really, really impressed. And the way they just play the big matches, the World Cup would be an example. They won 6 trophies now, hopefully 7th in 2027. And next year we'll see you guys in New York. So I think that's about it.
Brilliant. It's good to have Aryan. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Akshat.
And you can't complain. It's the only Indian or RCB podcast anymore. You got the Aussie.
Not biased.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now let's move on.
To more important stuff in life.
More important stuff. The IPL.
Yeah, big news.
This man has been making the round. Look at that
So happy.
hungry man.
He's so happy to be back in that jersey. I don't know what happened. I think there was some sort of drama behind the scenes that we're not aware of, and there were just rumors.
If we saw, he's the Sam Altman of IPL. Like it was so funny. And the thing is, Shubman Gill became captain, of course, right? And so seeing clips of him, like, my key quality is loyalty, and I'm like, oh my god. So, but yeah, I mean, he's back in MI. Now, don't you think they're invincible? Because Rohit, Kishan, you have Bumrah, you have him, of course, Surya, Vadera. I mean, they left Jofra Archer, which is, again...
They spent their entire auction... I mean, anyway, that's a different topic, but yeah.
But don't you think that, it's 2020 MI back?
That's the first thing that I thought about, and that's the concern that I have, is MI is too strong once again.
Yeah.
So, they're a big threat again. Once again, MI is a big threat, big news. But yeah, I mean, I really hope that something goes wrong for them as an MI hater. But yeah, I mean, they look really strong. I think they have all the bases covered really.
Yeah.
With a few like buys to fill the gaps, but with him in the squad, they don't really need Cameron Green, so it made sense for them to release him, and I'm very happy personally.
And we'll come to that.
I'm very happy with this because I think he will add a lot of stability in the middle order, even though he's 17 point something.
Yeah.
So people are debating whether that's a lot for him or not.
Yeah.
But I think he's valuable because the risk was someone else could have traded him into the team if we didn't go for him.
Yeah.
So that's what the new management discussed. So Cameron Green I think is a very good prospect for us. I think he's excellent with the ball as well.
Yeah.
Sami is going to smash them. So and the fielding capabilities as well, which we have experienced before. So I'm very excited about Cam Green.
And this is very classic RCB move. You release the Triple H, Hasaranga, Hazelwood,
wait, who?
And Harshit Patel.
I don't remember them.
And you got Cam Green, a batter. Now you have 9 crores to satisfy an entire bowling lineup. So I mean, good luck to you.
We'll get stuck. We'll get stuck.
Good luck to Andy Flower.
Yeah.
But IPL should be very exciting, and of course there's a lot of cricket happening right now. You mentioned in the start of the podcast like Uganda qualifying.
Exactly.
So a lot of exciting stuff coming up, and even for the Overcast podcast, we'll be getting more exciting episodes, especially with the cricket happening in Canada.
Yeah.
And that's it for this podcast. It's been a long one. It's been after a long time. But definitely something that we wanted to do. And thank you so much. Thank you, Eshaan.
Thank you.
And, see you next time.